Good morning. Good morning. Everybody doing good today? Yeah. Good. All right. Awesome. The weather, it's better than yesterday. Was a little bit sticky. It was, but I could wear a sweatshirt today, so I was good. So we had a good day of practice yesterday, which is always good. And then we'll get out there today and work our short yardage goal line, third down, normal deal, nothing too crazy to give you all. So with that, I'll ask for questions.
Goldman, what?
Yeah, he has an oblique, so we'll keep an eye on that. I think he's going to be okay, but we'll just kind of see how that goes and see how he is. Today. I'll end up talking with Dre. I got to get with Dre and figure out where he's at for today's practice.
Do you need Trey Burton to have a full participation in practice for him to get in the game, or could he theoretically still be limited throughout the week and then play?
I think he could be theoretically limited throughout the week. He did have a good day yesterday, which is good. We want to stack those up, and then, like I said, we'll just when we get to the weekend, we'll see exactly where he's at.
We talked to Mitch yesterday for the first time since immediately following the game.
Yeah.
He said to us that he was told not to talk about the game. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering why that would be a productive approach.
I think I was told that, and then I was told that he said that, and so to clear that up, I think that was taken the wrong way. First of all, that wasn't. He's being told so much stuff right now in regards to next play mentality, right? That's what we worry about. So I don't know exactly what was said in regards to what he said. I didn't watch it or see what he said other than what you just said, that he's saying that he was told not to. That's
pretty much it.
Yeah, so, well, I can tell you that, let me just tell you this, it didn't come from me, okay? So what I'm trying to get to is that I think the message within our building, not just to him, but to everybody, is we're moving on. We got to worry about what's up next. Didn't something happen over training camp? Remind me what it was, where you guys thought he said something about sweeping the sheds or cleaning up didn't you guys say he ended up saying something about, you asked him how he's going to get better as a quarterback and he's going to keep his locker clean, right? See, he's very honed into when he hears something, that's what, so to me, that's how I took it.
Takes it very literally?
Takes what? Well, yeah, he's keeping his locker clean right now. Yeah. Yeah.
But so for him to share that with us, we assume that that's what he was told, right?
No, I'm not saying he wasn't told that, but what I'm trying to say is that I think the message that was being portrayed to him was that, listen, we're on to the next deal. I think and it probably came out different than what he wanted it to come out, if that answers that question.
Well, that being said, Matt, he was more subdued a little bit yesterday. So do you think he has put all of that in the past and moved forward? Does it appear to you that he has?
I feel like he has, from what I see in meetings and what I saw yesterday in practice. I mean, he's out there smiling and giggling out of practice and having a good time, and that to me is what's important. We're going to be focused in meetings, and there's going to be times where you got to really zone in and make sure that you're extremely focused. But as long as you're not letting it affect your practices, and yesterday I didn't see that at all with him.
Now, when you look back at when he's been at his best,
Yeah.
maybe the Tampa game, the Detroit game at home last year, what threads sort of stand out to you from maybe an intangible standpoint about why he could get off in some of those games?
So probably fast starts, and I think that's key to a lot of people. If you can get off to a fast start, just like basketball, you hit a couple early shots, you get in a rhythm, you get in a zone. And I don't think any of us were really in the zone early in that game. So you go back to that Tampa Bay game. I mean, early on last year, he got in a fast start. Detroit, he got in a fast start. So he turned that into big time games. So we all just got to learn that if it is a little choppy early on, whoever it is, offense, defense, special teams, don't let that affect that next play. And we can all grow in that area. And then for whatever reason, that last game, it affected all of us, and we never got in a rhythm, which is in turn why we had that performance.
Mitch said yesterday that they might have to show Vic something he hadn't seen before. Is there any additional emphasis put on coming up with something completely new?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to show anything that we've ever done before. Every play is going to be brand new. So, I mean, that's we've never. When you see this weekend, there's not going to be one play that we've ever done. He's right.
So what is the feeling going up against Vic so early in the season, especially when it's a team the Bears haven't seen in a while?
Going against Vic is going to be the same as going against every other coordinator. Once you get into the heat of the moment and you're going, it has nothing to do with Vic versus us or us versus Vic. It's simply our players versus their players. And, I think Vic would probably tell you the same thing, that neither one of us are going to blow this thing out of proportion. We care about making our players play and doing everything we can to be the best we can. So that's the side story of it, which is totally fair and understandable. But once we get going and that first play gets going, you don't even think about, you really don't. You're locked into schematically what are we doing and what can we do better.
Matt, last year when you self-scouted last year, you guys had those 2 road losses after long breaks. Was there anything in those that maybe changed the way you went about having this long break that happened in those games? Or?
Probably not. I think the biggest thing, and we're using it for this week, is just make sure that you don't act like, and I used the panic word last week. I mean, just make sure that you're not completely changing everything that you do in regards to your weekly stuff, right? Figure out what the problem is, but don't panic. Don't get into, hey, we got to do this, we got to do that. Oh, I can't. I got to get more sleep at night. I got to get less sleep at night. Like the little things that people don't think of. Don't change that stuff. Keep your routine and stay the same. And I've been a part of 9-game win streaks, and as I said in the past, those are sometimes harder than when you're on, which I've been a part of 5- and 6-game win streak or losing streaks. And so they're all treated, if you treat them the same and you just, you don't panic, usually because you got good players, usually it pans out.
As far as you talking about using the run game more, is it harder than people realize? Because if you're missing on 40% of your passes, because 40% of your plays are getting 0.
Mm-hmm.
If you're calling run plays and 40% of your runs are getting nothing,
Mm-hmm.
you have to get away from that. In other words, is it harder to get over to the run game and stay with it when if it's getting nothing 40% of the time?
Yeah, and that's a really, really good question. I think the biggest challenge for a lot of coaches is if you are struggling in one area is to go to the other part of the game. And so whether it is in the run game or the pass game, if you can try to stay balanced and try to keep the defense guessing, and even if you are struggling for, maybe there's for instance, if there's a run for 2 yards, 1 yard, 3 yards, and then all of a sudden you pop one for 15, that average just jumped up, right? It made those other 3 yards. So there is, yeah, and that's a part of it. And it's the same thing in the passing game. If you throw 4 straight incompletions, I think it's not don't throw anymore, but it's figure out how do you get a completion? What's the higher percentage type of throw? And then same with the run game. If you're struggling in one area schematically in the run game, then how do you get more run yards through a different scheme? And that's where we as coaches come in.
Points are difficult to come by going up against Vic's defense. Would you have more flexibility in terms of that number that Chris Tabor gives you for Eddie in terms of attempting field goals?
I would assume, this is just me, we haven't talked about the numbers, but I would assume that this is a week with the altitude of the balls and kicking, which is talked about, is that the ball can travel further here in Denver. So I would assume that number is probably further back. Now, to go to your question of where you're at, it just depends on the flow of the game. I don't know how it's going to go. If you're in game A and it's a defensive battle, field positions, at a premium. So if you're going to kick a 54-yard field goal or 53-yard field goal, that's a risk there of losing some big-time field position in a low-scoring game. I think it's dependent by the type of game. To go back to our scenario last week in Denver, that number would have probably been deeper, and we would have probably kicked a 51-yard field goal. But again, then the scenario was the score. There's so many variables.
In your first regular season game with Chuck, did you learn anything about kind of how he approaches game day and what he does that's unique compared to other coaches?
Just for him, we talked about the mentality that we're going to have as a team, and I think he just gels really well with us. As far as what he did throughout the week, nothing really was different through training camp, or really how it was last year with Vic and myself. I mean, we kept things the same. I kind of just let them do their thing, and we'll talk specifically what we think the game plan should be from a 30,000-foot view, but nothing's really different than what I've known from the time here with Chuck.
Go ahead, Dan.
Is there anything you can do or anything you have to do this week to keep your defense from feeling like it has to press and do more than it really has to do?
Well, for sure, we got to score more than 3 points.
But during the week, obviously you can't score the points during the week.
Oh, you're saying during the week?
Yeah, creating that mindset so they're not feeling like, oh man, we really have to.
No, they don't. It's funny talking to the guys. Like I said, last year there was a phase where we went through this same thing, and so they don't. The type of people that we have, I mean, they don't care. They're like, we got you. We got you. We know that there's some growing pains here as we go, and they understand that. So when you have that, there's going to probably be a game this year, believe it or not, where our defense struggles and we offensively got to pick them up. I know it's been a lot of the other way in the past year and first game here, but that time will come. And so that's why you never start pointing fingers, because you just never know when your time's coming. And they've been really, really good with that. And that's something that we really never really have to worry about.
Matt, has the reaction to this loss felt different than maybe regular season losses last year, just because of the different expectations going into it?
No, it feels the same as last year's first loss. It does. I mean, I know the expectations are higher, and the similarities behind it is such the magnitude of the game of a division game, and then of that versus the Packers. We just got to make sure that in-house within our building that we understand it's one game. And now, as every game that goes, we need to do our job to make sure that you're not losing ball games. We got to win, and so it feels very similar to last year, regardless of my first year or second year, or our team's first year, second year, and our guys have been handling it well all week.
Matt, what did you see from the two new running backs in pass pro last week?
Yeah, I thought that, put it this way, nothing jumped out where I thought that they were a liability. I thought that they did a good job, responsibility-wise, what they're doing, really good. And so, that's always important to have those guys that you can trust, that can do things. They're not in there for just protection. They can protect when you need them to, but then they can scat and they can run the ball when you need them to. And all three of those things is where I feel like we can definitely do better in all three areas.
Matt, did Eddie Coleman suffer his oblique injury in practice yesterday?
Yeah. Yep.
Matt, you signed a tight end yesterday.
Mhm.
Is that more of a special teams depth thing, or is that any indication about where you guys' minds are at with Trey?
It's probably just a little bit of everything right now. I don't think it's one specific thing. He does have some special teams value. We just feel like he's an interesting piece for us offensively. There's some things that he can do without getting into extreme detail, but we obviously liked him to claim him. But we'll see. We'll see what he can do, where we think he fits, which we'll talk about. But we're just at that position between the Y, the Y position and the U position. It just gives us another element to really both of those spots, the Y and the U.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
False.
What are some of the important corrections, building blocks, and lessons that you want to make sure get going offensively this week, coming out of the opening game?
Yeah, we had a lot, just a lot to clean up. I think a lot of, and you got to give your opponent credit. There's no question about that of what they did. And then, as always, you're looking at yourself, us first and foremost, what we coulda, woulda, shoulda done. And then a lot of things where it's, guys watch the film for a half a second and it's one of those moments like, wow, whatever it may have been, a physical mistake, a technique mistake, not effort mistakes, but those are the ones that are tough to take. And then I think probably even more so is just emotionally moving on, whether it's a great play or, a one-score game for 4 quarters and everybody's, not very happy. We got to move on. And the defense did a phenomenal job of keeping it a one-score game for a long time, and we just didn't react to that very well. Didn't react to. I think our guys had a lot of confidence going into it, and didn't expect that result, and we have to handle that better. Everyone.
You've talked in the past about Mitch's personality, about how he really wants to do well, and when he doesn't, he's really hard on himself. How do you harness whatever that is and point it in the right direction, especially when he's got 10 days between games?
Yeah, that's the tough deal. With again, there's more than one guy, and that guy gets a ton of praise when it's good, and maybe not deservedly so, and a ton of blame when, maybe not deservedly so. And you're always playing that role. And the psychoanalysis of maybe being too confident when it really wasn't maybe a play that you made, and versus a situation like this, that's something you deal with at every level forever at that position.
What do you do specifically? Is there anything specifically you can do?
Yeah, you talk. You address it. You talk about it. You identify it, and then you move on. And that's then the hard part is however many days later. It's unfortunately not an NBA back-to-back where we can go after the Milwaukee Bucks the next day. We have to wait 10 days and let it sour, which that might be a good thing too.
You just talked about the need to be more balanced on offense, run versus pass. How would being balanced like that help the offense just generally?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you move the ball, you score touchdowns. What you did was right, right? And if you don't, whatever you did is wrong. We liked the idea of what we had going last week. We liked how our guys had prepared to play that game. And again, it's not the baby with the bathwater type of situation. Our guys believe in what we're doing. And certainly, we're going to try to do things a little bit differently, but balance is relative. We have to be able to run the ball when we have to run the ball. We have to be able to throw the ball when when we need to throw the ball.
Where do you see the balance in this scheme of wanting to spread the ball around to playmakers, but also having a guy now in Robinson who looks like a number one receiver?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it kind of just depends on how they play you. Part of that you can scheme up a route for A-Rob, for example, and they might double him, or they might rotate in a way that takes him out of it. And that's where as a quarterback you just have to move on to the next guy and trust your feet, trust your eyes, trust the concept. You got to protect it. Long enough to do that, and that's where it takes everybody on the field for that quarterback to be the hero.
Not that having a number one receiver is bad, obviously.
It's a good thing.
Is there a balance for a quarterback of not staring down that guy too much in a game versus still wanting to get him the ball quite a bit?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing in anyone's playbook that I know of that says, "Hey, stare at your number one guy and throw it to him." And I'm not trying to be smart, whatever that is, but. Yeah, I mean, it's part of the scheme of how, again, trusting your feet, trusting your eyes, and the timing of the deal, which again, part of that's protection, part of that's the timing of the route. It's everybody. It's coaches.
We're going up against Vic Fangio on Sunday, someone that obviously knows Mitch's strengths and weaknesses. So how do you combat that?
Yeah, I mean, Vic is a fantastic coach. There's no doubt about that. He's a better guy than he would ever want to lead on. I think as probably you guys know. He doesn't really want you to think he's a good guy, but he really is a good guy. And they're extremely talented. You know, I was joking the other day with Ted Monachino, who I coached with for a long time, and you know, all he coaches are first ballot Hall of Famers. You know, that's all he coaches. And Vic, you know, has the personnel, has the guys on the edges, and you know, part of that is them, and part of that is him. And you know, we have a more highly detailed knowledge of what he's done in the past and how he's done it. But the beauty of what he does and the frustrating part of what he does is it kind of just all looks the same. And so, you know, and I mean that as a huge compliment of, you know, you don't know where they're coming, or when or why, and lets them go do their deal.
Mark, how do you teach a quarterback to properly go through his progression? It seems like it's more of a mental thing as much as anything else, is being consistent with it.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. You know, there's guys that are kind of progression-only type guys. Hey, we're going to start whatever it is, low to high or right to left based on a particular look. Or some guys, you know, you can get to a point where it's coverage-based and, you know, you're doing things based on different, you know, just different, there's different ways to do that. And that's where you just have more of these back and forth, getting in his mind and hearing him talk of how he sees it, because that's you know, through Coach Nags, number one, and then through Mitch, those are the brains that we have to you know, get in and figure out how they click together, and then coach that from there. But there's a lot of different ways to get that done.
But is that a reason why some quarterbacks who have a lot of talent don't make it? You know, because they can't get that part of the game down?
You know, I think again that's a long answer. Situational, you know, where guys end up. You know, are you talking about like a bust situation or guys or?
Yeah, just somebody who has a lot of talent, but just, you know,
Right.
can't hit the curveball, can't, you know, whatever.
Right, yeah.
Do one thing.
Yeah, maybe he shows up and they don't have tackles and they're playing against, you know, Khalil Mack and Leonard Floyd every down, and he can't get to number 2. That's not, you know, a mental thing, but that's probably something, just the timing of getting the ball out. Sometimes, you know, a guy like Drew Brees or Tom Brady, they take very, very few hits, and you know, so much of that is just always being, it's 1-2 ball, period, you know, and obviously that's worked out okay for those guys.
Mark, to go off that, Matt yesterday mentioned the volume of plays as maybe a reason for the lack of rhythm or Mitch not seeing the field as well as he should have against the Packers. Just in terms of working with him, what have you learned about when's too much or when you take some things off the plate?
Right. And that's when, you know, when we talk about coaches, that's on me, that's on us, that's on you know, us again, just getting to know how everybody responds and communicates. That was something that came up at multiple layers during the game, is we didn't communicate as well as we should have, and that's on everybody. But I think when you see a lack of just, you know, kind of forward lean, front foot, confidence, rhythm, timing, there's something there, right? And it might be too much, and if you figure that out, you stop.
Is it too much sometimes for everyone else? You mentioned the communication just in terms of like different personnel in the game too. Is that maybe too much for other people?
That's what I mean. Yeah, for everybody, and that's the part of it. You know, we're not pointing the finger at anybody else but ourselves, and that's the great thing about everybody on our team. Our defense isn't, you know, blaming the offense, and they probably could in a few instances.
Mark, Mac talked to us yesterday about the process of play selection and getting input from assistants during the game. I'm curious, from your perspective, what is that process like for you, play selection and
Yeah, I think it's, you know, like everywhere else, it's variable, ongoing. You know, there's times between drives, you know, everybody's talking. But, you know, more so is during the week, you know, of putting things together, and the halftime is so fast in the NFL, it's hard to, you know, you almost have to think about that beforehand. But yeah, there's nothing unique or different.
But is it a enjoyable process for you? Do you feel like you know, your voice heard? Is
When it's 7-3.
inclusive?
Oh yeah. There's nothing. There's no magic there as far as stuff that man wish we would have done, do we wish we would have played better? Absolutely. And that's when and rightly so, the second guess fest takes place.
Mark, when you were at CU, did you love when C-level teams would say altitude didn't matter?
Well, I played there a lot more in the opponent's realm, and it's all you just got to get past the psychology of it. Again, it's just, it'll hit you, you'll run up the stairs and your lungs will burn for a second, and then it really doesn't matter. If we were running a marathon, that'd be a different situation, but yeah, I certainly won't be doing that.
Mark, for every offensive guy, do you think, is there a feeling like just having a game at game speed under their belt will make a difference? When you watched the film and you saw what went wrong, is that any kind of factor to you?
No, and I know where you're, headed with that. There's yes and no. What we did, and again, everybody in the world can second guess that. We believe, last year at this time, we lost the first game, and the sky fell a little bit that day, and we moved on. And we have to do the same thing this time: is come together, figure out why. Certainly, some of those things happen, but communicating in the huddle, hustling to the line of scrimmage, that has nothing to do with anything other than each individual guy and coach taking their role, to solve that.
Mark, when you talk about the group as a whole struggling in game to handle the negative results, what's the remedy for that, both during the week as you go on week 2, and then in the game if it comes up again?
Yeah, you talk about it, and when I say that, it could be very positive too. If you're up 21-0 early, you can't dwell on that either. You got to move on. And again, that's just something we've already talked about and dealt with, and talked about how we would handle that differently.
Any sense for why it happened last week?
I asked a couple guys. I'm not on the field, and of just hearing those guys, but it's just a matter of, again, all the guys that are the leaders of stepping up and moving on. Again, if we are lucky to jump out 14-0 or whatever happens, the next play is the most important play in the history of football, and we got to be great.
Is there a fine line between you want them to be frustrated if they miss a block or drop a pass?
Sure.
Or whatever, but,
Yeah.
but again, it sounds kind of like during the course of this week, the turn the page thing, you got to get to that real fast, right?
Yeah, and that's the part of it's a double-edged sword. Absolutely, I think the awareness of why is the most important thing. Why things succeed or don't succeed, and just everybody looking at the same thing, going, "Oh yeah, that was easy. That was 100% on us." If they pressure into something that hits this, then they make a play and we move on. But just everybody understanding that is hard in the course of a game like that.
Thank you. What did you learn about your units the other night that you really want to take forward here?
I like the way they played. I thought we played fast. I thought we played physical. There's still some things we got to clean up, as I say it all the time, I mean, game 1 to game 2, hopefully there's a significant jump. But I like where they're trending after game 1.
Can you take us through the process of getting to the number that you give to Coach Nagy for Eddie? Is it just as simple as his longest kick in warm-ups, or are there other factors involved?
No, I mean, there's other factors. Obviously, wind. I think the other factors also are who's the opposing quarterback, and where's it at during the game, and those type of things. I mean, we're sticking to the number early on, and obviously sometimes you got to adjust it at the end of half, end of game, those type of deals. But all kinds of factors. You just don't say, well, he made this in pregame. If it goes through ugly and it's a bad make, you got to kind of play with all that.
So with that being said, does that alter at all with the altitude situation on Sunday?
Well, that's going to be another factor in the whole deal. Obviously, the higher altitude, the ball flies farther. So, I mean, that will be. We'll see how he hits. He had a great day yesterday, so I continue to. He keeps doing that.
Chris, have you had any notable experiences in Denver from a kicking standpoint that jump out to you?
I've only been there a few times. One of the times we were real late in the year when I was in Cleveland. But, I mean, the ball flies. But the day I was there, we were able to get a lot of returns that day. So we'll just kind of see how it plays out.
Is there anything you have to tell Eddie about altering or working with, or it's just a matter
No.
of you're going to have a little bit more?
Yeah, you're going to have a little bit more pop on the ball. I mean, you're not going to change your swing. You're not going to change your line. Everything's still going to be the same. Just needs to hit his ball.
Will there be somewhat of a balance, though, knowing that the ball does fly a little bit farther there, to kick longer?
You're really stuck on the long field goal right now, aren't you? It
I'm curious about it.
No, it's to be honest with you. Yes, that it's gonna have a factor in that. It's also the other factor is how's he hitting? Is there wind? Is there a right to left, left to right? Where are we at in the game? Those type of things with regards to when we establish the line and give it to coach, and then we play it from there.
When teams go there, whether it's the Broncos or any other team that you've watched, are they able to do different things from a kickoff standpoint because the ball fly? Like if you get it up in the air, a little bit easier, and if you want to make them bring it out.
Well, yeah, it seems early that McManus has been hitting deep. I know that Oakland had a couple big returns the other night. It didn't fly as far as what they wanted, but obviously hitting a kickoff, if you want to hit a touchback, it is easier there. If you want to hang it up, I mean, you could still do that, but you still got to fight with it going too far too. So.
Small sample, but did you learn anything outside of the specialists about your return and coverage teams, the guys on those units and stuff?
We had we had 1 yard. Davis did, and I thought Pat did a really good job with getting fair catches and establishing field position there. I thought that was really good. I liked the speed with which we played, and guys, even if it was a fair catch and we didn't get down and cover, I liked how guys were getting off blocks and stacking and where our lanes were at. So I was really pleased with that. But obviously game 1, small sample size, so to be determined.
The broadcast kind of caught you smiling and nodding after Eddie's first miss. I'm curious, just with all the first make, with all the build-up, the competition in the offseason, what was your anxiousness to actually have him go through his first regular season kick? And
I was excited for it because I do think that, and I understand why there was a lot of hoopla on the kicking thing, probably in my opinion a little much, but that's okay, I get it. But I was really happy for him. And I was excited for his opportunity to go out there. Guys, good snap hold kick. Guys did a great job in protection. And, it's game 1. Now let's see how he does in game 2, and I expect him to play well. But I was fired up for him.
Is it still a rule of thumb for punt returners to plant their feet at the 10 and let everything go?
It is not. It is actually not. It takes you to the 8-yard line now. And if you look at it, and that's really what most NFL teams do. I know people get stuck on the 10-yard lines because that's how it always used to be. Now you move it back to the 8 because gunners are down there and they drop the ball in there because your corners are pulling off of those guys early just in case the ball bounces and they don't want to get hit with it because they're working to try to protect the returner. You got to move it back just a little bit farther because if those gunners are down there, then obviously they let it roll inside the 5 and down it. So it's actually moved back a little further.
And I'm just curious, is it better for a kickoff to go to the 1 and have it returned or into the end zone for a touchback?
Well, I guess it depends who's returning the ball. You know, I'll be honest with you. I was hoping we were going to get some returns the other night and push the envelope on it. Crosby did a good job of knocking it out, and then when he kicked towards the south end zone, he had a miss hit there. But you know, I think it's who you have returning those type of things. Be honest with you, I'm not into just having a bunch of touchbacks. I'd like to press it a little bit if we could.
With the stats, it just seems like if you get the guy to return it, you end up close. You start. The other team is starting at the 20 instead of the 20. It seems like you gain yardage by not kicking it in the end zone. I don't know what the stat is.
Statistically, I don't think it's really shown too much yet. I will say this: the only stat I do know is if you don't bring it out, you will have a 0% chance of scoring. If you do bring it out, you do give yourself a chance to have a big play. And but I also understand what you're saying. So it's kind of a tricky question.
Strategy there. I mean,
There is who's kicking, who's your returner, how do you match up, all those things. I think all those things go into it, as opposed to just saying, hey, touchback is a touchback.
Chris, what was your diagnosis on the kickoff that went out of bounds after the made field goal?
Excitement on his part, and disappointing. Bless you, double bless you. It's okay. He just kind of got wrapped around it a little bit, and you know, obviously we don't want to do that. But to say I was shocked that happened, I was not. I get the emotion, I get the adrenaline, and it's something good for him to learn from. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Chris.
My bad.
Hi, good to see everybody.
Hey, Chuck. Chuck, what have you come to appreciate about the impact Danny Trevathan makes on this team, both on the field and in the locker room?
Yeah, just, his passion for this game, his leadership, again, on the field, you guys can see that, but off the field, he does a tremendous job with the veteran guys. He does a tremendous job with the young guys. It all starts with himself. He has high expectations and a standard for himself and holds himself accountable, and then he does a great job of doing that with his teammates.
You've obviously been on, part of teams that have won Super Bowls, that have, had players who have rings and all that. What does that
I never got one, though. I was close a couple times, but I never got one. Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of impact does that have on an entire locker room when you have a voice of a guy who's been to the top before?
No, it's huge. I mean, he comes in with instant credibility, and I think anytime you change teams or you've been on a team, you got to earn it every single day. Our guys do a great job. He does a great job of coming in every day and earning that respect. It goes a long way because they understand how hard it is to get there and how hard it is to actually win it. It's monumental, and the sacrifices that everybody has to make. So it's great having guys, that have been down that road.
Because you guys divided up after the team film review and got together as a defense, what did you guys discuss about what you guys as a defense could have done differently in that game?
In the last one?
Yeah, in the last
one. Oh, there was a bunch of things, that we had to clean up, and we could have done better. You want to go in and you don't want to give up explosive plays. Explosive plays, you don't want to penalize yourself. We had 3 penalties, we had 3 explosive plays, and that's what led to the 10 points. And when you don't do that, on a drive, there was 10 drives where we didn't give up an explosive. We didn't penalize ourselves, and they didn't score on any of those drives.
What you hear from the players afterward is saying we could have been better as a defense. Things could have gone differently if we would have made that extra play. You like hearing that when the players are kind of leading the mindset in terms of after a tough loss like that?
No, that's the culture here. That's the mindset, of this football team. And if it was any different, you'd be worried about that. But we don't have those type of guys. We got a bunch of guys that, it always starts with myself, starts with them. We all look ourselves in the mirror and say, okay, how do we get better? What do I got to do to get better?
We talked to you before the game about the play calling part of it. How did it go, did you feel?
Yeah, I think it's just like anything else. Obviously we had a lot of time on task with practice and preseason, and Coach did a great job of putting us all in situations during training camp, that were call-it type situations. It's easy when you just script everything out and you know exactly, the down and distance, the personnel, all those things. So Coach did a great job, leading up to, that first ball game of putting, all of us, putting myself in a situation where, I was getting repetitions at that. So, it's a team effort, and I got a great staff. We got a great staff. Coach put together a great staff. We got a great room of coaches, as you guys know. And so the communication, from the box to the field to the box, and so forth was outstanding. And so, Sean Desai does the personnel. Nobody wants that job in National Football League and college football, whatever, of trying to decipher who's coming in, who's coming out. And he does a great job of that. Bill Shuey gives you the down and distance, the hash. So all that communication, Jay and Ted on the field and Mark upstairs, it was outstanding. So it makes the job a heck of a lot easier.
Robertson Harris had a great game, sack almost 2. What have you seen out of him?
Yeah, I mean, he had a great camp. He had a great off season. He works really hard. And I think that was just a byproduct of all that hard work and that sacrifice. And, he's a big dude, and he's got game wrecker ability in him, and he's strong, and he's got great length. And, he's, again, he's gotten better, in all phases of his game, playing the run. We know on third down that he's got the ability to get after people and win his one-on-one matchups, but he's getting better at all 3 downs. And again, we all got stuff to clean up, and there's things, in that game that he knows that he can get better. So his biggest challenge, again, we can all deal with adversity and circumstances and stuff like that, but, handling success sometimes is harder than anything else. And he's going to stay grounded. He'll stay humble. He understands that, he can't sit there and read all them fluffy, nice things that you guys are writing about him, because, this is a very humbling league. It only takes one more game to, you take your foot off the gas and you start listening to all that stuff, and then, you're coming in and you're talking about, something you don't want to talk about.
Chuck, sorry to harp on one of the few things that didn't go right, but why was Bush in for Clinton Dix on that touchdown drive?
Yeah, we had a plan for the third series of the game that he was going to go in, and Deion had a fantastic preseason, and a great training camp, and he earned that time. So that was the plan.
So just a credit to Rodgers, he's really good at finding the soft spot.
Yeah, he's done it a few times before, to a lot of people. So it's one play we'd love to have back, but we can't turn back the clock. So we looked at that play, and we understand that, if we would have done a couple things just a little bit different, he wouldn't have had that, situation. So, doesn't really, it's a team deal, and it doesn't fall on one dude, so.
You'll continue that plan or that rotation with getting Bush in there and stuff?
Yeah, every game is different. Every situation is different, so we're going to get that kid some playing time. Again, he's earned it, and he's a talented football player, and he can help us win games.
How important is that rotation to have when you are going into altitude, maybe even early in the season?
Yeah, I think especially for the guys in the trenches, it's going to be huge. We got to do a great job. We got to win first down. We got to get them to second, third, and long, and we got to get off the field. If we can't do that, it's going to be a long, hard day, especially playing out there.
There are a lot of other factors that went into it. When you were in Indianapolis, you had 2 early season games in Denver and lost them both. Is there a challenge to playing there early in the season when guys aren't maybe fully in the football shape they'd be in week 8, week 9, week 10?
Yeah, you can spend a lot of time, harping on all that stuff, and then, kind of manifests itself, and hey, you can't breathe, and then you go out there and you find out, well, I can't breathe, and you talk yourself into that stuff. So these guys have worked hard. We'll go out there, try to acclimatize best we can, in a short period of time, and then you got to go play. And again, if you do your job and you get off the field, then it shouldn't be a factor. And then we have enough depth, and you stay healthy through the course of the game, that we can roll guys in, and Jay and those guys will do a great job of that, of getting especially the big guys, up front.
Joe, what has made Joe Flacco effective over the course of the years you've watched?
He's a talented guy, and he can make, all the throws. He's a smart guy. There's nothing that he hasn't seen. I think, he knows exactly, where to go with the ball, and he does a great job of controlling the defense, with his eyes, and he does a great job pre-snap, gathering information. So he'll utilize the play clock, he'll utilize cadence. He's veteran savvy that way to try to get us to, show our hand and all those things and get them in the right play, so he's going to do that the majority of the time, so we got to be really sharp.
Chuck, Vic is a defensive-minded guy like you. In watching his Week 1 coaching debut, what did you learn about him as a head coach?
Yeah, he's sitting there. That's a hard job, and I credit, Coach for doing that, because he had the call sheet there, and I'm assuming that he called it, and I think we all figured that out. But that's hard because, when you got to manage the whole team, you got to manage the game, you got to manage the play clock, you got timeouts, this, that, and the other, and then you're calling, one side of it, and then trying to keep tabs on the other side of it. It's difficult. So credit Coach for doing that. It's not easy.
How closely did you follow the Broncos growing up there?
Yeah, that's, my team growing up, the Orange Crush defense, Tommy J and Barney Chavis and all, Alzado, they were dominant, back then. So that was when I was little, though.
You interviewed for the head coaching job there. What did you take from that experience, and did you allow yourself, the chance to reflect on what it might have been like to coach the team you grew up rooting for?
Yeah, that would have been pretty cool to go back home and, parents still alive and doing well and living in Boulder where I grew up, and, to go back home and, the team that you grew up rooting for, possibly be a head coach for, yeah, so you could sit back and daydream a little bit and figure out what that might be, and then, reality hits you in the face, say, I feel really good about how things worked out, for Vic, and mostly for myself, because I'm a Chicago Bear. And like I said before, I got the best job in the world.
What were those years like that you did spend with Vic, working with him, getting to know him, the play caller, the person?
I think anybody, that spent time, coaching with Vic, it was a great experience, and so, we had a great staff there. Coach Harbaugh put together a great group of guys, and, and Vic's a great coach, and you learn a lot, from that guy. So it was a great experience.
What stands out to you about Cortland Sutton as a receiver and how he's kind of grown into the role he's
Yeah,
now?
he's a dominant football player, and he's their go-to guy. And I know they got, number 10 back, and he looks like he's, rolling, full speed, and got nothing, holding him back from that injury. So, he's big, he's physical, he's tough at the line of scrimmage. He's a big body guy. He can be covered, but he's still open. And Joel will throw that guy open. So the catch radius and all that stuff is plays into his hand, and it's an advantage. So we got to do a great job of knowing exactly where he's at, every snap. And then we got to play a physical brand with him and challenge him, make it hard on him.
Was there any moment last Thursday where you kind of took a moment to appreciate, being back? 'Cause you said your excitement to be back in the sidelines, back and coaching a team. Have any moments like that Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, again, just being back and being part of a team, especially this one. It's fantastic. It's exciting, and it's good to be back working. I had a hard time filling up my days, with too much time on my hands. So, yeah, I mean, for a brief moment, and then reality hits you, and you gotta, we all got a job to do and games to win. So, we're back at it, and we're trying to fix what we need to fix, and we need to go get a W. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chuck.
Vaughn will be about 12:55.